And welcome to episode number 55 of the Final Whistle. I am Kyle. You may remember him from the fantasy champ from this previous season, a good friend of mine, Mr. Nick Hernandez. Nick, well, welcome back. How are you today?
Kyle, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I look forward to it. It's gonna be a fun little talk with us. I'm doing well. Just kind of getting ready for another gauntlet of fantasy football, right? So
Yeah, we are very excited as Mark is traveling back from vacation, so he'll be back with us next week. Don't forget, next week is our special live show for college football preview right here on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch. So we are looking forward to that. Me and Mark will break down and give you a preview of the college football season. But we talk about football. Nick, preseason week one is in the books. How did it feel? I think it feels pretty good to have football back. And before you know it, we'll be kicking things off real in a couple weeks.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. It's definitely one of the better times. It's like the struggle. I say as soon as the NBA Finals ends, it's just that like month and a half that like you just got to kind of like wait for football to start. And thank God we're finally here. It's just such a fun time of year. NFL, obviously, you just alluded to college football, happening too. So,
Right.
yes, we're finally here. There's going to be football on every weekend now for the rest of the year. Finally, the wait is done, and NFL, another crazy season's on the way. So I'm excited.
18 plus weeks between college and NFL, and before you know it, we'll be at the Super Bowl already. Like it just flies by, and we'll be there, and we'll start with this. What do you think of your Eagles? Give us the people. Nick is an Eagles fan. You can see by his hat right there, the Birds. As before we get into the fantasy talk, what do you think? Give us a preview of your Birds.
Yeah, thanks for asking. The Birds, I think, are going to. There's a lot of change, right? So we just got a new offensive coordinator from the Packers. Kevin Petullo left last year, thank God, because our offense was like a base high school offense. So to finally get a decent play caller in there is going to be an adjustment every year, as well as the departure of A.J. Brown. So I think they are talented enough on paper that I still think they're probably the favorites in the NFC East. There's a couple other, Washington might be a little better with Jaden Daniels and a few of their additions, but on paper, we have the best defense still in the NFC East. I still think that Jalen Hurts is the top 5 quarterback in the league. Devontae Smith, a lot of people too say this, like, how is he gonna, kind of step
Yeah.
up to being the wide receiver one? He's a wide receiver one, in my opinion. Like, on any other team, 75% of the other teams, Devontae Smith's a number one receiver. So I think he can answer the call. He was terrific in Alabama. He's a winner. So I think we're going to be good. If I had to give a guess, I'm going to say 10, 11 wins.
Okay.
And I think we'll win the NFC East. And if
Yeah.
not, I do think at least a wild card.
Yeah, and I brought this up too in some of our chats room, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. The wide receiver, who's going to step up without AJ Brown, right? Who's going to be that guy? Mekhi Lemon, they drafted. I liked him out of USC. I was hoping that maybe he would have slipped to the Browns, but we ended up with Denzel Boston, who's still a good player as well, still a good receiver out of Washington. So, been enjoying watching him play this past week against the Bears. But yeah, it's going to be who's going to step up, and it's going to be injuries, right? We know Barkley, unfortunately, knock on wood, sometimes he does get injured for a couple weeks, and then that kind of throws things off. And like you said, and Hurts, and the funny stat, and I know you know this stat, like he's had a different quarter or OC his whole freaking career. How crazy is that? Like every year you get a new OC, so it just must be the jinx if you're an OC. Like you better do well, because if you don't, you're going to be out the door in a year.
It's kind of funny you bring that up, Kyle, because it's like every other year that like we'll have a bad one, and then we'll get like Kellen Moore, and then we'll have another bad one, and then so we're hopefully on the good year here as we like I said with Petullo going out of town. I think that is going to be an improvement itself because of just how bad he was.
Right.
But yes, I to your point also with Barkley, like you just brought up, I think when he's healthy, I think he's a top 3 back in football. I just the talent alone. His upside with rushing and receiving, I really don't think there's many Saquon Barkleys out there. So I think as long as he's healthy, that's going to be our game changer this year. It should funnel through Saquon. But just to your point, I mean, injuries are across the league. They're so unpredictable. You have no idea when injuries are going to happen. So I mean, on paper, every team looks like a Super Bowl, contender on paper, but we'll see in 18 weeks.
Yeah, look at the injuries now, and we got a lot of them cropping up that could be fantasy implications. But we probably should we talk about the Browns? Probably not, because it's gonna be the same old. As I know you're a big. I'm not saying hater, but he's a big critic, which we all are. Nick sometimes loves to criticize them, whether they do good or bad, just to get under our skin. Sometimes it's funny, but hey, I mean, with the quarterback situation this year, it's going to be very interesting what they're going to do. Is we'll have more of a preview in the coming weeks. But I mean, Watson, probably the 3 they played this week, probably is the front runner to get the starting job, if I had to say.
It should be, just based on the amount of money that he's getting paid, his contract, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Shador will probably get his opportunity, but I mean, on paper, week 1, I think you throw Watson out there just to kind of see the end of that contract and see if he can even get some kind of lightning in a bottle. I doubt it. To your point, I do want to address it for the viewers out there. I'm not a Browns hater. I'm not a Browns critic. As an Eagles fan, just the type of fan that I am, is performance-based. We know this as being Eagles fans. If the Eagles aren't performing well, we're the first to boo them, and we're the first to boo Santa Claus. We're so pissed off. So I have a very short leash with the Browns because they just can't get it right in 30, 40, 50 years, and it's embarrassing to the city because I'm not a diehard Browns fan, but a lot of you guys watching this and a lot of people in Cleveland are. And you guys deserve a better team and a better product to root for. And the fact that they just put out very subpar football every year is aggravating. So yes, they would be getting booed out of the city of Philadelphia if that was their team. So that's how I feel about them. But to your point, I think Watson's probably your week 1 starter. I don't know if they're going to win many games this year. To be honest,
I say at least 4, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 if we get lucky. I don't know. I saw a prediction they won 7 games, so I'm like, that might be stretching a little bit with what we got, but who knows? It could be same old, or we could have. Remember the first year Stefanski was here, he took us to the playoffs. So you never know, especially getting under Todd Monken's first year. So we'll see on that. We'll have a NFL preview coming up in a couple weeks, but. Let's get to the reason Nick is here. It is also fantasy football season, as we are very excited. I know mock drafts are going on. I know some people already draft. I know one of my cousins, he drafted the last week of July in a 14-team league. I'm like, good Lord, hoping nobody gets hurt. You have nobody. But so how do you feel, Nick, as in our league? We'll talk about our league since that's where we're in, and then we'll talk about some other things with that. But you're the 10th pick. I'm the 7th pick. Well, how do you like your spot?
Yeah, so the way that we do our league, I think I said it last time I was on, but we offer a draft incentive. So where you finished last year, so first, second, third, fourth, wherever you finish, the person that finishes in first gets to pick 1 through 10 what draft slot they want to choose. So since I won it last year, not puffing my chest or anything, I chose the number 10 spot for a few reasons. I think this draft is going to be very deep. I think there's a lot of great talent there, as well as I like the turn picks, and it's ironic enough because we also do draft trades. So I was actually traded the 11th pick right to you, Kyle. So Kyle is actually going to take my 11th pick because I loaded up on second and third round picks just because that's what I've been mocking. But I do think, to my point, I think the 10 spot is a ton of talent there. I think right now it can be anyone from Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jackson Smith there, James Cook, Saquon Barkley. I mean, there is a ton of talent there at that 10 spot, and even into the second and third round. So I think that's why I kind of chose the 10 spot this year. A lot of previous winners always like to take number 1. They have not repeated, so I wanted to go take number 10 and maybe take my own road there.
Yeah, and to your point, I've been already getting a lot of texts and calls about trying to trade that 11th pick, but I don't know. I'm kind of like where I'm at when we're doing some mock trades and all that, or mock drafts, and all that. But, for me, I like the 7th. I like the middle. I feel comfortable in the middle. Granted, it doesn't do me good sometimes. I kind of just screw up, but I just hate the ends. I don't know. I just feel weird. Like getting the 1 pick, then you got to wait. The 10 pick, then you get the back-to-back, but I think you get more meat in the middle than you do from the 10 pick. Now, obviously you get the pick, and you mock, but I don't know. The 5th and 7th, 5th through maybe 8th pick, you get meat, Nick, and I I like that, and sometimes you random, you obviously don't know where you pick, but I think from 5 to 8 you get meat, and I think there's a lot of guys there that are possibly your quote unquote franchise players for that year, and because if you wait, there's a lot of guys off the board, and it kind of changes your what is it called, strategy more than if you are on the outside in 1 in 10.
Yeah, you're definitely right, and you also got to factor into in our league. Not saying that it's a homer league, but just there's a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
You'll sit there and try to predict it as much as you can, and then someone will take a random quarterback or a random tight end in the top 10, and you're like, okay, I had no idea that was going to happen. So if that happens, then that pushes more value down the board. So that's another reason I think I like 10. But to your point, yeah, you're in prime position there at 7. If there's some crazy stuff going on, you can get easily a running back 1, a wide receiver 1 in your lap specifically, Kyle. I mean, you're looking at Christian McCaffrey coming in, Jonathan Taylor in the great year that he had, Jackson Smith, like I said. I mean, there's so many people there in your range. Talk about getting a really, really good value pick. I mean, 7 is a great spot. And again, I think in a 10-man league like we have, I think 1 through 10, you're going to get great picks. Every team's going to be pretty much good in a 1 through 10 league. So,
Yeah, when we brought up our good friend Steve, he's like, he was maybe thinking Josh Allen. I'm like, I guess. I mean, I don't know when outside of Mahomes, I don't remember the last time a QB went the first round, right? Or first or second round. I mean, he's going to get points, especially you got an offensive-minded coach in Buffalo, right? So he's going to get points. He can run the ball, and if that offense opens up, now they got a receiver, right? And DJ Moore, who they traded from the Bears to the Bills, so that's going to be a difference to open up. You got James Cook still, and I know you're kind of high on Nick, and so am I. And there's a lot, with a different head coach. What now? First year head coach. We don't know how that's going to play out, but you get different things. And as to your point, when you get these different, someone could pick someone, and then it kind of shakes up the rest of the draft, right? And we talked about our good friend who was at the 4 pick, Brandon. He could go anywhere he wants because we kind of know the top 3, and then you go with the 4, and you're like, even not even just draft, just any draft, like. First round could determine a lot, especially if a guy goes off the board that you thought might fall, but he goes early on. I mean, Josh Allen, that's a quarterback now. You think now you got to kind of, if you're Steve or whoever, if not Steve, but just for saying, you got to wrap around with, okay, where you going to get the running backs? You're going to get some running backs to be off the board. Now you got to kind of have that game plan, right? Not just for Steve, but in general, when you kind of go a little crazy, not crazy, but think like a little off the board like that, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of change your game plan a little bit.
yeah, absolutely. And to your point, too, there's a lot there. When you have a first-year coach, or just like the Eagles with Mannion coming in as OC, I think that's the best opportunity for you guys or for those guys, should I say, to rely on your playmakers, right? So for Buffalo, there's no point to even complicate it. You go Allen, you go Cook, and obviously you just said DJ Moore. Those are going to be your top 3 producers there. As a new coach, as a new OC, I think you don't complicate it, and I think that's more of a reason to rely on and draft those kind of guys. So to Steve's point, and also Kyle, going back to what you said too, QBs typically don't go in the top 10, but in our league last year, reminder, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson both went in the top 10 last year. My wife took Josh Allen at the 9 pick, and she took who Jose was going to go ahead and take number 10, and he was going to take Josh Allen, but he had to go Lamar. So quarterbacks, for whatever reason, get pushed up very, very high in our league. But in a typical kind of draft, I mean, you should be able to get Josh Allen in the second round. But yeah, I think Steve's a really, really good fantasy manager. He was the guy that I beat in the championship, and his team was 15-0. Steve knows how to play fantasy football, and I feel like when Steve has a plan, he knows what he wants to do and execute it in the draft. So if that means taking Josh Allen at 6, he already knows his second, third, and fourth round picks, who he's going for. And again, to my point, I don't think it's too early to take Josh Allen at 6 and then wrap around and start getting your running backs or your receivers. So it's going to be interesting for sure. I've been trying to mock it and predict it as much as I can, and I think we're going to see some curveballs, especially as soon as that draft happens. It never goes the way that you think it does.
No, it doesn't, especially when you get to like the fourth, fifth rounds when, we got players flying off the board. It's kind of getting a little harder. And then you kind of throw in the injuries, right? Like we have a lot of injuries coming out of camp. We mentioned coming out of camp right now of all teams. We got Puka Nakua's kind of injured. We got Brees Hall that went down. He's got a groin strain. Jeremiah Love, who's supposed to be, I won't say top pick, but he's gonna be a good benefit, especially if there were other running back. Not gonna, hopefully he doesn't, but if he does get hurt, he's gonna be the guy up. So when you're drafting, it's kind of and for all you that I know some people that watch that aren't sports people, aren't fantasy people, so we kind of break it down for you each week like we do. But when you kind of it's hard, like you get injuries, like they're gonna be okay. Now, you're drafting Puka, right? You're drafting Puka the first round and whatever. He's going first round, late first round. But the other players like a Love or a Brees Hall, that's got to be in the back of your mind too, right? Like he's injured, is it going to affect him the whole season? Even we go back to Barkley, right? He's got, he pulls a hamstring. He's not known for pulling a hamstring or something with his leg each year, or almost every year. So it's like, well, you want to take him, but then you got to make sure you have that firepower behind him, or like you do, Nick. We kind of do from time to time. You stack up on their backups because you just never know when it comes to injuries.
Handcuffs, yes, definitely get your handcuffs. I think my biggest thing of advice for people watching or just in general with fantasy football, I think one of the biggest things as you talk about Jeremiah Love, talk about Brees Hall, I think knowing their offensive situations, right? So knowing that the Jets are not going to be that good, knowing that the Cardinals are not going to be that good. So if they get injured, I think you go into the draft, in my opinion, like, okay, we'll be a little weary. We'll kind of see. If more talent is in front of them, if you're getting a Josh Jacobs, a Kyron Williams, people like that are in that same mix as Jeremiah Love, of course I would say shoot your shot with those guys because of just their upside with their offense, right? But like a Jeremiah Love, like you just basically like you said, he's going to be a focal point of that entire Cardinals offense. It's probably going to be him, Trey McBride, and possibly Marvin Harrison if he can finally turn it around. I don't know. But Jeremiah Love, as long as he is not, out for weeks, if he's out for the preseason, so be it. But I still think he's going to volume his way possibly to a top 15 finish, top 20 finish, just based on volume alone. So there's a lot of things that go into it. Especially, I think too, a big thing to bring up is PPR. So if it's a PPR league where these running backs can catch passes and get points, that's also a big thing to, in my opinion, to kind of weigh. But like Brees Hall, for example, for me, I think the Jets are going to be a dumpster this year. I don't really see much upside in him. I wasn't really interested in him even before the injury, to be honest with you. So I mean, you know who your good players are. Puka should go top 4, top 5. No questions asked. As long as he's not out for weeks on end, he's like I said, he's the number one focal point in Los Angeles. So that's my kind of thing with it when it comes with the players.
Yeah, and you talk about Marvin Harrison. He had like a sophomore slump last year, right? He wasn't getting the ball, or if he was getting the ball, he was dropping it. I mean, he had his spurts, but at the same time, he wasn't really firing in all cylinders. And and we saw that story that broke where the front office guy got caught for betting. Did that play effective? Probably not, but you just never know until some things come out. But yeah, so things like that. Now he's got a better quarterback. I wouldn't say better, but he's got a decent quarterback to throw him the ball, and Jacoby Brissett, right? So maybe his stock from Harrison rises a little bit compared to what they have in Kyler Murray, who's with Minnesota. And we bring to that point now. When you have a quarterback, a track record like Murray, and you got Justin Jefferson, you got all those, you got T.J. Hawkinson, those guys on Minnesota. I wouldn't say it's definitely interesting because now you have that track record, and Jefferson, he's kind of fallen a little bit, right? He's probably gonna be still top 2 or top second round pick, at least 3. But when you have a track like Murray, I think. Excuse me, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's not hard, but you kind of think well, how good is he really going to be when you have Murray, a guy who really had a bad year in Arizona, and now he's going to have a year. Well, is he going to have a year in Minnesota where Justin Jefferson's going to get the ball? And I think that's fantasy applications right there as well.
Yes, it sure is. And to that point too, Kyle. I mean, Jefferson is another star-studded receiver. I mean, I put him. I was just texting Steve actually this week. I put Jefferson in the same tier as Jamar Chase if he had better quarterback play. I mean, Jefferson is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you throw him the ball anywhere within a whole radius, he's going to catch it. Um, to your point about Kyler Murray, I really think, again, going back to what I said, it depends on the situation. And I think KOC, the coach there, I think he can get the best out of a veteran quarterback. I mean, we saw it with Sam Darnold. We saw it, I mean, with Kirk Cousins, you name it. I mean, he is a quarterback whisperer, in my opinion. I think your boy J.J. McCarthy is a little different because, you know, coming in as a rookie or just a young guy.
Right.
But I think Kyler is an established NFL player. He's, I mean, number one pick. I mean, all that. And now he gets to come into Minnesota, who has a prolific wide receiver, decent run game. You know, Jordan Mason is going to be good this year. Aaron Jones is okay. He's getting older. But, I mean, it's just a way better situation than Arizona, even just from a coaching standpoint. So I think as long as he stays healthy, which that's been another one of his problems, but as long as he stays healthy, I think Minnesota, I think Justin Jefferson could easily be in the comeback player of the year argument for fantasy football, easily. I've even thought about a lot taking him at 10 if he's in front of me, but it just depends on, because of us trading picks and stuff, it depends on my strategy, what I want to do. But Jefferson is awesome. I can't say it enough.
He's definitely won people fantasy, and you know we have those things in the back of our mind, the impact of the quarterback play, right? And you think about it, and with his track record, and Jefferson, he's the number one guy, and plus, I mean, then it comes to the trickle effect, right? You got a Jordan Addison, and then they just got Juwan Jennings, who they signed, which I think that's a great pickup for them, and he's going to be maybe, I won't say fancy sleeper, but he's going to be someone in the later round you might want to keep your eye on, because if they could take out Jefferson, Juwan could catch that ball. And I to be honest with Jordan Addison, I'm going to use your word. I know you love this word. We all use it. Jordan Addison's a stiff. I think he's not for fantasy purposes. Even when he had the time, now it could have been the quarterback play, but even when Jefferson was obviously number one and number two, he really did not get the ball. He really did not. He has his flashes, but he really did not get open. So when you talk about this in fantasy wise, I think you're picking Juwan Jennings over Addison. And Addison still stays in wide receiver 3. And when you get things like that in fantasy, I think that's one guy I think you could look at the later on and be like, well, if Juwan stays healthy, you got a guy like that to play. And you know, it goes for whenever you're drafting anybody else, when you got those guys, you trade over. Now, the San Fran kind of let him go, let him walk, yeah, but look what they got. So I just think when you move teams in that, you probably are in a better situation than you probably were when you started, especially fantasy-wise.
I think to your point about Addison, there's a few things that we need to take into consideration. One, he's young. He's 24 years old. Two, he's dealt with injury. He's dealt with suspension. He's dealt with bad quarterback play. So I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I'm just saying that the stars haven't aligned yet for Addison. I do think Addison is very talented. I think I'd like to see what he does this year. He's coming into he's healthy. He has a good quarterback situation, like I said. There's no distractions. I think he can be up. I'm not going to say this like totally, but he can be up on like a T. Higgins level or a Devontae Smith level. He could play a very complimentary receiver to a number one like Jefferson. I would like to see him do it for the full season, though. Obviously, to your point, there's flashes, there's this, there's that. You know, he'll go get 25, and then the next game he'll go get you only like 8. So
yeah, or less.
Yeah, or less. So I definitely think Addison is going to be one of those players that if he's there in the 14th round, something like that, and I need a couple bench receivers, I would take a stab at him just because of the situation. But yeah, there's so many gold mines like that. You talk about players that switch teams, players that get new offensive coordinators, like we've said. There's so many things that play a factor. That's why I love it so much, because there's so many different things from year to year that you can't take into account
right,
because of all the change. You never know.
Flash in the pan, right? Like he might have like one breakout week, and like you said, next week, the following week he has like 2 points, and it's like, well, that's also on the waiver wire too, right? We'll get to the waiver wire in a minute, but when you bring up another one about the quarterback play, and we'll talk about, you know, when you have a team like the Browns, right, and don't, and you have those receivers, right? You have a Judy, you have now Denzel Boston, who's going to hopefully, if he has good quarterback play, going to have a breakout year or be a stud. But then you got Junkins. So when you think about receivers, and you got a Fannin, right? Those are like three options, right? Like four options right there. But when you don't know about the quarterback play, especially in fantasy, it's like hard. It's a little hard because you want to take this guy. You know he's going to get his points, but how long can you wait? Especially when you're making a charge of fantasy, you're playing well, you're winning games, but running backs are a premium, and you need those running backs to step up. But especially when a running back goes down, you need those receivers to step up too. But it's hard, especially on a team like the Browns, trying to get those receivers because you just don't know what you're going to get week in and week out.
I think it goes back again to I keep hammering just the situation of the Browns and just the situation of the team as a whole, right? Brand new coach, a brand new offensive line, right? They had to go ahead and pull out everybody that they could because they had no one in the like when it came to the draft.
Yeah, right.
A brand new line. You don't know about your quarterback. You don't know who's going to be able to do what. Yes, they have a lot of young talent, but Judkins is coming back from an injury, so that's
Plays a factor.
Plays a factor. And you just don't know if Watson's going to hit his tight end a lot. Over his time he has, but I mean, to your point, there's Denzel, there's Bond that's supposed to be getting a lot of hype, KC, of course. So there's so many. The Browns have young talent, but there's so many outside factors or different factors. I just don't see a lot of success this first year. So like that's why for me, I love Judkins, but I just don't think it's even worth me taking the pick this year. Can he be good? Can he volume his way? Like I said previously, can he volume his way to a top 20, top 15, maybe? But I don't. I think I'd rather take some higher players with more upside in that, in those rounds than like any Browns player. Maybe Fannin if I punt on tight end. Maybe. That's really like the only one that I've been really touching.
Yeah, and like you said, you just don't know the quarterback play, the offensive line, who's going to get the ball, and I mean Judkins is probably your safer option because he's going to get the ball, especially either handoff or like a screen pass, or whatever. He's going to get the ball, but that injury, we're going to see. Hopefully, it's not an incident or occurrence where he's always injured. One of those players then. And then it's a bust, right? He's a bust of a draft pick in real life and in fantasy. But it's and then you talk about the tight ends, right? The tight ends also a premium, right? Because you got the Brock Bowers, you got it's okay. You can put Travis Kelce up there a little bit. He still kind of got it. Your boy Dallas Goedert, who he could show signs of life when he gives tight end screens and all that. He flips out there, and just tight ends if you don't hit on a top tight end, you're pretty much maybe week to week, right, with the tight ends trying to figure out the matchups and all that, which for me, I'm okay. As long as you have a good roster, you really don't need those tight ends, as bad as if you have a Bowers, who's pretty much your primary catcher, especially on the Raiders. I don't even know who they have on the Raiders. I don't know who their receivers are since they traded everybody pretty much, right? So it's a team like that where you're going to want to get him. You're going to want to get a Kelce, even though he's kind of slowing down. He's, like I said, he still's got it, though. But when you have tight ends like that pretty much are your only receivers or one of your two receivers, you got to hit on. You got to grab. If you think you could grab them, you got to grab them, especially in early rounds.
Yeah, the only receiver I can think of from Vegas would be Trey Tucker because he got hot a little bit last year. But, to your point, there's not much going on there. I will say this. When it comes to tight ends, there's probably 3 or 4 max, in my opinion, this year that will be worth high-round picks. Otherwise, punt, because I think there's a lot more other talent. To your point, yes, Brock Bowers is probably the number one. My boy, who I absolutely love, I've had him the last few years. He helped me win the championship, Trey McBride.
Yeah,
that's in there. I would say Colson Loveland got a lot of hype last year. I think him coming into the year. And then if I had to put a fourth one in there, I don't know. You mentioned Kelce. I wouldn't put Kelce. It just seems like he's declining. He's getting older. I think the situation in KC is always going to be good because him and Mahomes will always,
I will, to your point real quick on that, I will say, you look at the Kansas City's receivers, all they got is speed. I don't know if they have a guy to go up get the ball. I could be wrong, but it's more speed than anything. And Kelsey's that slower guy, but he can still catch the ball and get fall underneath a route or something and catch it. But that's just what I was thinking when you were talking about Kelce. But you continue.
Yeah, I think the only one that I would say just upside from last year would probably be Tyler Warren from Indy.
Yeah,
but that's a tough situation because Daniel Jones got hurt. So, like you don't know how well Daniel Jones is going to come back this year, and Indy as a whole is going to be this year. So, um, I would say outside of those guys, if you don't take a tight end within the first 4, 5, 6 rounds, I would say just punt and make that like your last priority because there's so many other talented players that you could just get, receivers, running backs that we talk about. Receivers are going to be extremely, in my opinion, extremely. There's going to be a ton that you can get in deep rounds that are still going to be really, really good,
Yeah.
league winning, opportunity to have on your team deep in the draft, versus taking a Fannin, a Laporta, a whoever, early when you could easily punt and get whoever else later on, Kyle Pitts, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I feel about the tight ends this year. I'm kind of with you, even though I do have a soft spot for Trey McBride and Bowers. Of course, they're more luxury picks than anything. They're the sexy Lincolns, the sexy, you know what I mean, like Cadillacs of fantasy football, if you will, because if you have them on your team. It's always great to see a tight end scoring 30 points a game.
Yeah, it's scoring 30 points. It's nice, because like I said, they're only pass catcher, and you rely on them. And Kelsey back in his day when he was in his prime, he was doing it. And a team like I'll bring it up again, like Kansas City, they have Rashid Rice, who's a speedster. They forgot who else they have. They did have Juju Smith, who's a speedster. Yeah, I mean, they have guys, but they don't have that tall guy go up and get the ball. So it's kind of how their style is. They just, with a running back, Pacheco, but you bring up the backup, we talk about later rounds, you got like a guy like Devontae Adams, right, who is a second fiddle to Puka, but if you get him, you're going to get him in the mid rounds. He's could put up points, especially if Puka gets hurt or they lock him down. He's guys like that you're going to get, in the mid rounds that are going to save your season. Like again, Jawan Jennings if he's healthy, and other teams that I can't think of right at the top of my head. Mekhi Lemon if he's healthy for the Eagles, he could even be their number one if Smith doesn't pan out. And Zay Flowers and, Bateman, those type of guys. So it's just, and Jalen Waddle now, he's in Denver. So when teams change, I think when teams change, especially for fantasy, you kind of look at the last season with the team or the team they're going to. Like, okay, Waddle, I think one of those guys, he's going to flourish there, especially with Bo Nix, and they got that that pass attack offense. He's gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like you said. We talk about breakout stars. He's one of those breakout stars moving forward. When you look at teams when they move from team to a better situation, I think he's gonna flourish there in Denver.
As long as he can stay healthy, because he has had obvious injury history in Miami. But yes, I mean, it should be wheels up for him, especially Bo Nix. You have a great play caller. Sean Payton's there. I mean, everything seems to look like it's going to be good. I even love the fact that they still have Cortland Sutton there.
Yeah.
Who's on the other side. I think those two would be great together. Denver should. I mean, Denver's an AFC Championship game away from going to the Super Bowl, for God's sake. So, I mean, they should. Do I think they're going to make it back again? I don't know. There's so much, like I said, with KC was out last year, Baltimore was out. I don't know if they're going to make it back, but I do think from a fantasy perspective, Jalen Waddle could easily be one of those players that moves to a new situation and just kind of wheels up, like you bring up Devontae Adams. That's it. Devontae Adams was kind of written off. He was in Vegas doing nothing, the Jets doing nothing. He gets a competent offense and a competent quarterback, and they were top two receivers last year, him and Puka. I would think of other teams maybe. I mean, there's always Jamar and T. Higgins.
Yeah.
You brought up Devontae and A.J. Brown. I mean, there's like a few, but I would say the Rams last year, even when Puka got hurt, Devontae Adams was awesome. So that's easily another player that you could wait a few rounds and draft him. And if Puka is injured, like you talked about at the beginning of the show, there you got a number one receiver that Stafford throws the ball to. So
yeah, and then you like you said, you have these randoms that come out of nowhere to try to pick up the slack, and then everybody's fighting for them on the waiver wire. So before we're going to talk about the more of the league and the waiver wire stuff, as we talk about as we taught mini NFL previews. I'm sure you'll hear more about this coming up in the weeks to come as we talk about the season, our preseason predictions, and all that. So, but really quick, we want to send condolences to a family friend, Scott, who did lose his mom a couple of weeks ago. And Scott's been, with our family for a number of years, coached my sister in soccer. So we do send our condolences to Scott, Tommy, Ashley, Carrie, and the rest of the family, and sending thoughts to players during this difficult time. Okay, so Let's talk about fantasy and waiver wire. And I know leagues are different. Your league is first come, first serve. My league is you got to wait till Tuesday. And I know a couple leagues you got to wait till like Tuesday to get your guys. But waiver wire, I think, is an interesting thing because you fight the other players to get to, or other members to get players. But I think it could go either way. It could work out, but also cannot work out, especially if you jump the gun and you get a guy that, he had a great week, and you put him in your lineup. Next thing, he only gets like 5-6 points. So how does waiver wire, let's ask you, impact you when you're picking your players up week to week?
Yeah, so for the viewers, the leagues that I run, I do no waivers. So it is first come, first serve for mine. I know that I am the minority out there when it comes to that because a lot of leagues do waivers, fab cash, whatever you guys do. I personally like first come, first serve. I like basically if you want to change your lineup 100 times and you think about dropping someone, picking them up, doing whatever, I feel like you should totally be able to get in there. The early bird gets the worm, whatever it is, that is fine. But from your perspective, when you talk about waivers, there's a few things that you need to kind of take into consideration when you do them. I think one of the big reasons I don't like is your opponents, for example. So let's say I know next week I play Kyle, and I know Kyle's running back went out this week. He got hurt, whatever it is. If it was my time on the waivers or whatever it is to go in, I can just go in and put a waiver request in for the top running back from the week and steal him from Kyle, knowing that I don't even need a running back, that you do. Yes, in the first come, first serve, I could do the same thing, but Kyle at least gets a fighting chance. If he's watching the game, watching football, and he sees that his guy goes down, he can go right to the waivers and go pick up and get his backup. Or, obviously, that's what handcuffs are for, and that's right. Why I value those. But there's a lot of things that you need to consider when you do waivers. I mean, just your priority, knowing when you're going to, you got to prioritize. You got to know, okay, great. Okay, next week I have these players on a bye. I know I need a receiver and a running back more than I need the top kicker who's been, lighting it up for the last 5 weeks. So there's so many things. Me personally, I just think it takes a little bit of the fun out and a little bit of the competition out, in my opinion, having waivers. That's why I don't do it. But like I said, each league is going to have their own. Fab Cash is also another cool one too, where you get like a total like dollar amount, for example, and you can use it to spend on free agents. So there's definitely different ways to it. I just like having kind of the wild west of waivers, as I call it.
Yeah, and and this is nothing new to me or to obviously the league. If I'm sure some of y'all will be turning in from me and Nick's league, but I know we butted heads sometimes on the waivers about the rules during preseason and all that. And I don't mind it picking first come first serve mostly my other leagues are. I know a couple that are mine's like that, and I know feelers like that, but. For me, when we talk about to counter your point for a minute, I think it's a little harder because let's just say someone, for instance, is at a party or a gathering or a work, like they can't get to their phone right away. Just to counter your point, devil's advocate. So and it's like I think it's sometimes the player should have not the first option, but it should be aware, if that makes sense, right? You can't get to your phone right away, or you have to be somewhere where you can't look at your phone. You kind of go. When you get back and then a guy's already taken, you're like, well, I guess I'm out of luck because I couldn't get to my phone or so. But, I can see your point, too. It's first come, first serve. You could grab the guy, you could stash him on your bench, right? And then if you're playing him that week, well, okay, then, the guy's SOL. But I do like the other waivers, too. But when, you kind of wait because then, and we talked about this too, Nick. For playoffs, it gets locked, so you can't pick up a guy if you're out of the playoff, the money contention. So I like that too. I do that too, and the bye weeks too. And I always kind of look when I draft too. You talk about the bye weeks, when they're playing. Now sometimes you kind of get if you go back-to-back picks where you like this guy or two number ones you draft. If they're on the same bye week. All right, you got to suck it up. But I think bye weeks, for me at least, I don't know about you, they do come into a factor at some point, especially maybe mid-draft or okay, this guy's week 7, this guy's week 8 or 9, whatever. Because I think if you could survive the bye weeks, that's when I think it's more fun with the bye weeks, right? Because now you got to manage your roster differently compared to the first 4 or 5 weeks where you're okay, everything's set. Outside of injuries, I think bye weeks are the biggest hurdle to get over, especially when when they're 5 or 6 teams are on a bye and you kind of got to grasp for straws and pick from the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, and that's where trading comes in. So I'm an advocate for trade. So that's where
Yeah.
trading comes in because you can easily. So my strategy is this: I draft for talent, or I draft for my strategy in the draft. Right? Okay, if I'm looking to fill out a certain build, I draft for it. I don't care about buys as much. Yes, they're annoying when they happen and you have stars on your team, but you can easily A, go to the waiver wire, go pick up people. B, like I just said, you can go ahead and make trades. So I think having a league like ours where trades are encouraged and fun and almost on a weekly basis, what keeps it kind of, entertaining. You can almost get, finagle it where, okay, hey, I have, I'm going to make up an example. I have Jalen Hurts and his buy is coming up on,
Shocker.
week 7, whatever it
Shocker.
is.
You brought up an
You
Eagle.
could be like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and trade Jalen and try to see if I could package him and someone else to go get Joe Burrow, right? So something like that, and then if Joe Burrow's bye week has already passed, then you're good. You're kind of
Right.
good with your quarterback, and you don't got to worry about it. So that's a situation I would love to obviously keep Jalen Hurts in that, but you get the idea that bye weeks I don't typically let it be. It's one of those things. Okay, if I have to play it, then we'll figure it out on the fly when I get there. But I don't let it impact me so much that it deters me from drafting talented people.
Yeah, and I'll just bring up something funny real quick. I can't tell you guys how many times each week I get a call from this dude or his brother or somebody else about a trade, and it's like week two. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, what are we doing here? It's
I
like
might
week
trade
two
on draft, Kyle. I might trade on draft night, to be
on
honest with
draft
you.
night. Oh,
If there's a situation where there's a player coming up and I really like him, and I'd be like, hey man, I drafted CeeDee Lamb at the 10 spot. I'll trade you him and someone else, like whatever it is. I would easily do it. I'm one of those people that I think you kind of got to push your chips into the table sometimes in order to win, and
yeah.
sometimes it absolutely burns you. For the viewers, I'll say it. I've one time traded Jamar Chase. I got a great haul back. Like I was able to get Saquon at the time, a couple other people. But it was the week on Thursday Night Football that he went off for 55 points, and I traded him that day. So you can get absolutely burned. Or on the flip side, you can get absolutely. I made a trade last year, and I picked up Amon-Ra St. Brown before the trade deadline, and then that basically helped propel me to win the championship last year. So um, it's like the stock market. Sometimes it may hit, sometimes it may not, and that's the fun of fantasy football to me. You never know. But yes, Kyle, I will probably hit you up at least once a week and check in to see how you're doing because that's doing your due diligence as a fantasy manager, I think.
Starting Monday night, folks, until Thursday morning. That's all that is. That's all that is. Phones off. Phones ringing. I'll be at work. He's like, "Hey, bro. Hey, man. You want to trade?" I'm like, "I'm working right now. Leave me alone." But
Think about it. I sent it to you.
yeah, think about. I'm like, all right. I'll get back to you in like 3 to 5 days when I'm done
My
looking at
brother
that.
too. Yeah, my brother Al is definitely really big into trading too. He's into. There's a few people in the league that are into it. I think you're not afraid to make trades, Kyle. I think it has to make sense for what you're trying to do. But I
Yeah.
think you'll definitely pull the trigger. There's me, you, Al. I think Jose has made a few trades. He's kind of been a little bit more reserved. Trying to think of other people in our league. Brandon will make a trade every now and again. He's kind of like in your situation. We have probably, I'd say, out of the 10, 60% of the league that Dennis is another one that would make trades.
Yep.
60% of the league, I think, is active traders, or at least they would trade. So that makes it a lot of fun when teams are willing to make trades.
Yeah, and and I'm not, and people may think, oh, he's complaining. No, it's fun. I always do. It's joking manner. It's fun. To make
Oh,
the league fun, and in a couple leagues I'm in, we always do that as well. And like in baseball, I just made a trade that I just traded for two best players in baseball right now for like only a number one pick and like two scrubs. So I'm going in for it. I'm in second place, so I'm going for trying to win some
that's
money
good.
there. So yeah,
Talk
so
about really quick too, Kyle, before we move to the next segment. Draft pick trades. So our
yeah,
league also has draft pick trades. So as we just talked about at the beginning of the show, me and you have made a trade for draft pick trades, and then my brother Al and I made a bit. So now instead of me drafting at the 10 spot, so I was 10, 11, 30, and 31. Now I'm scattered all over. I'm at 10, I'm at 19, 22, 27, and that's just and that I think makes it so much more fun. It makes it more realistic in my opinion. Like we're really in the NFL making these trades, trying to trade up, trade back, trying to acquire picks. I think draft pick trades are really a lot of fun because it's one of those that you're not even trading for the player, you're trading for the opportunity to draft a player. So like
Yeah.
that itself, I love draft pick trades. I don't know how you feel, but we've made two. This is our second year now where me and you have made a draft pick trade. So
Yeah, I would, and throwing a suggestion out there, and we'll talk to the league obviously at the end of the season. But I mean, I know you kind of vetoed it down, but you always got to bring it back to your mind. Maybe mid-season picks for next year, right? I mean, I know your reason on it is because people don't come back, then it kind of screws. But we kind of figure it out there. But I kind of like with my league, we kind of do in-season, and other leagues I'm in, they do in-season draft pick trades. So I mean, I like them because then it adds more flexibility, right? Like you're not always okay. You're not have to throw like three players to one. You can throw okay, maybe a player and a pick and a play for like two players, something like that. And you have that luxury, especially if you're out of it. But again, we bring up and we can talk about this too, the tanking, right? And I know for my league, I always do. I think I'm going to change it up next year, though, as I talk to some of the league members. But for the draft picks, or yeah, for drafting the draft position, I should say, I always do it random. So, like, it's not every year. It's not a draft incentive, right? So it's not. I don't do what Nick does, but I was thinking about doing your thing next year. So I was thinking about that as he's kind of inspired me to do that. But I like to do it randomly so that people aren't. I'm not accusing anybody of taking, so don't put that out there in the universe. But people that may give up, let's put it like give up, halfway through the season, like at least play. Like you still could get the number one pick, even though you kind of tanked, right? And even if you win, you could get the number one pick. But I think different ways we do that. There's different ways to do it. Like some people just do it random on the day of the draft. When it shows up, Nick, you do your way. I do it my way at the random. Everybody does it a certain way, but it just it's fun when you've done predictability because, like you said, the draft picks, Nick, someone could go win the league, and like your position, they're going to number 10 because they're trying it out, especially with league's history. So it just depends on where you're at, where you're drafting, and you want the league to be fun. You don't want it, the people to tank and only half the league's playing, and it makes it fun when you maybe make it a little for off-season draft picks a little more into it.
and that's why I do the incentive for that reason alone, so that we can try to discourage tanking because it's really hard to do. Because once you're out of the playoffs, you're like, yeah, okay, screw it. I don't, I have nothing to play for. I'm not going to set my lineup, whatever. But at
Right.
least if you have the incentive, you'd be like, okay, hey, I could at least be in, have the seventh selection next year to know where I want to draft. And then that can really, really help you versus if you're the 10th guy and you're in last place, you get assigned where the last position is where no one else really wanted to draft.
Right.
So I do think having the incentive really does help it because for me, being really big into the draft, I would like to try to choose my spot. I think choosing your spot is a great opportunity for you to, how can I say it? If you're in a spot that you're comfortable and you're like, yeah, okay, I love these builds. I know that I'm like mocking. You have a great chance, in my opinion, to make the playoffs. I mean, look at Steve last year. He stayed at the 3 spot last year. He had the third pick overall. And I mean, his team was on. I mean, I think he had Jameer Gibbs, Achan,
Yeah.
JSN. I mean, his team went 15-0. So I mean, that's just those are the kind of things why the draft is so important. I mean, and to Steve's credit too, his philosophy is specifically, staying in the draft and making smart trades. When mine is like, okay, great. Like I like to optimize trading. My team at the beginning of the year doesn't look anything like it does at the end of the year. So I think that's why I like the incentive. I think also kind of we do the soy, which is the stiff of the year, like Kyle kind of said. I think kind of making some humiliation towards the loser, I think, is also another thing that can discourage, wanting to tank because obviously you don't want to really get embarrassed. But that's those are probably the two biggest ones. The incentive and the soy, I would say, would probably be the biggest two that can help against people that want to tank. But going back really quick to just what you said about draft pick trades, I would love to trade future picks. It's not that I'm against it. I don't want to get anyone into a situation where if someone wants to leave the league or life happens, whatever it is, and they've mortgaged their entire future, having to then bring someone else in and they'll be like, hey man, by the way, you don't have a first round pick, you don't have a third round pick. I would basically, I feel like as a commissioner, have to comp their dues for that calendar
That's
year.
fair. Right.
Yeah, just to
Right.
do so. So I think that's why I don't do future picks. If I know for sure that these guys are all staying, which most of them do, I think we're at a point now, Kyle. I think we're probably about like 90% retention. I think maybe we might lose one guy a year, maybe. But if we could get the same group of guys for like 3 years in a row, I think I'd be totally good with doing future picks. I think that's a great. You ask me, I'm like one of the best traders in the league. I would love to be able to like finance and make it even sweeter and throw in like a fifth round pick next year. You kidding me? But I think just for right now, I do think just doing same year draft pick trades, just based on the positions, makes it a whole lot of fun.
I
And
can,
just another thing to get the draft kind of excitement going.
when you said that count, I could hear our good buddy Jose go, "Son, stop." Just hear with some of that, "Son, stop." But no, and we talk about the drafts as we kind of wrap up here in the next couple minutes or so. But even drafting, and I know we do this every year, at least for now. Obviously, it goes year to year, depending on what we're where everybody's at in life and all that. But drafting in person is a little more fun, right? It's fun to hang out, eat some good food, get a couple laughs in as we pick, but it's good. Yeah, it's kind of a little slower process, but it's still a good time, People are there. You're not out doing a draft online, you're done like in an hour, right? It kind of drags in a couple hours, but it's a fun time, right? You're always with the people that you care about. And then, you have the draft board. I know you were, I don't know, did you order a draft board yet, or does that come as you
Oh
get
yeah, it's
yeah.
already ordered. Yeah,
Yeah.
the draft board's already ordered. I've been talking with Brandon. That's where the draft is this year at Brandon's house. So it's going to be kind of the same setup like we did last year in person. I do love in-person drafts. I do have a couple things this year I am going to implement to speed up that process because through the 16 rounds, it took us 4+ hours last year.
Yeah.
I would love to get that done in three. So we do a lot of kind of somatic and stuff like that. Like our whole first round, we have like walkout songs and people walk up and put their picks up. So like the first couple rounds will drag on a little bit because it's more fun.
Right.
After that, I think after the second, third round, we're gonna try to speed it up. Maybe even put a timer on it so people can get their picks in. Because I would love to get in and out of the draft in 3 hours if we can. I think that'd be a great improvement from like almost 4.5 hours last year.
Right, right. But it's fun hanging. It's fun tuning in person, right? Instead of online, like it's just a different vibe, and when you get to hang out and the people, so it's even better. And I know Nick and a couple group chats were in, the people, so it's a little easier compared if you didn't know a person, right, or two that. But at least it's good when you know the people and you don't, and it's not some people that like you haven't met for the first time. So and that's kind of we can talk about that a little bit too, really quick. But when you get people they don't know, when we talk about drafting, it's interesting because you got to figure out their draft strategy, right? You got to figure out what they would like to do, where they're going with it, because if you know the people that are in there, their draft style, but a random person that you don't know or you're just introducing to the league, you don't know what they're doing, which could make it very interesting as well.
Yeah, we have one guy, Brad, my buddy, who came into the league this year. He's played in my previous league. Great record. I mean, he won the championship last year. Even the year before that, he made the championship. My brother and I beat him. Shout out to the barbecue. So yes, so Brad is coming in, and he's going to be a new face to a lot of people. And I think as those things, you get people's tendencies. We made the joke that Kyle, I was like, I know Kyle's going to go draft a running back within his first two picks because I know obviously all the draft, you get data, you can obviously see from year to year. And, the same thing with me. I love early receivers, early running backs, all that. So you get people's tendencies, but at the same time, too, I think a lot of it also just comes down to their draft position, so where they're at on the board, and B, who's there at that time. So regardless, if I know Kyle wants to go running back and Puka Nacua falls to him all the way at 7, I think Kyle's going to go take Puka Nacua. Like, I feel like that's just very obvious. So those are the kind of things that I think makes our league a little bit fun, is that there's a lot of chaos within the first 5 picks, first 10 picks, and then sometimes your whole draft strategy might be out the board, out the window because you weren't expecting to get, Jahmyr Gibbs at the 5th pick. So
Right.
even though he's going to go within the top 2, of course.
No, and This one I think about mock drafts. I'll bring up mock drafts real quick as we're running down on time here. But that's why, like, and it's nothing personal because it's just hard to do mock drafts with people because I don't. I hate when people see when you talk about what I'm going to do. Like maybe I have a plan that I don't want to show my cards if that makes sense, right? Like sometimes I'm hesitant. Like I'll do mock drafts by myself, but like we do at least a mock draft once a week with the whole league. But I'm like sometimes I don't want to do that because I might switch it up. Like I might have a certain plan in place compared to what you guys are seeing, and then I don't want you guys. So he's dead set on this, so we're gonna draft like that, right? So and I know you ask me sometimes, hey, who are you going with, and I'm like kind of reluctant, like. You'll see, like, because I like to maybe surprise people. Like, I'm thinking this guy, but then I could wake up on draft. Like, and I'll be honest with you, Nick, and he knows this. When I tell you I don't know who I'm taking. Like, I could be like one day I could wake up, I want to take, for instance, Barkley, but another day I could wake up, I kind of like Jason. Like I go back and forth. It's just of who's there and how the draft plays out, especially in the mocks. Like I could like this roster better than that roster, but I know it's different, and it's hard to. I don't want to show all the cards because you just never know what's going to happen or who's going to fall. Because like we talked about, we go back to the beginning when a player falls, it reshapes everything, and then you kind of start from square one. Like okay, you're going to get this guy. But now you got to reroute how you do your second pick and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, so there's a few things with that. Let me kind of speak about that for a little bit I want to ease your anxiety a little bit about showing your cards. So I do encourage, so what Kyle's referencing is we do like league-wide mock drafts. So I'll send out, like we're on Sleeper now, and I'll send out, hey, if we want to jump on and do a mock draft together, it's just something. I think it's camaraderie. I think what it is just we all kind of get in there, we all shoot the shit for a little bit, and we all just make make these mock drafts. Kyle, to your point, if you noticed what I did at the beginning of the show, I said at pick 10, I gave you like 4 or 5 different people, right? Mm-hmm. So that right there gives you an idea of what I'm looking at, but it doesn't tell you anything in terms of who I'm going to actually pick at 10. I could actually go ahead and pick someone completely different based on who drafted ahead of me. So I think just giving, you don't have to say, hey, I'm dead set on Jonathan Taylor. Hey, I'm dead set. If you could be like, hey, I'm open to, these 2 receivers, these 2 running backs, whatever it is. And then also what I want to say about is in the mock drafts, what I do in those is, so let's say we do 4 mock drafts. I do 4 different style mock drafts. So no one truly knows where I'm going. Because one mock draft, I might go heavy running back. Next one, I might go 0 running back. One, I might take a quarterback in the top 10. And then one, I might take, I might just kind of see what falls to me. So I do 4 different mock drafts to get comfortable with a style. So when I get to the draft, okay, great. Hey, I liked this, out of the 4 mock drafts, I liked my 3rd mock draft build the best, and I'm going to try to use that one. So even if you do a mock draft a day like we almost do at this point, no one truly knows where you're going to go because they could be like, okay, well, Kyle picked Josh Allen at 7, and then he also picked Puka at 7, then he also picked James Cook at 7. So I think that will naturally keep people guessing. But to your point, I mean, there's people that like to hide their cards. I think Brandon, BP, Johnny, those have probably been like people that haven't really been doing mock drafts just because they're kind of, I feel like, holding their cards close.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see any. I think it's more camaraderie than anything. I don't think you could truly get a feel for what someone's feeling unless they're at the first pick or second pick and they're picking the same guy back to back.
I laugh. I was laughing. I'm trying to look at. I kind of take a picture of our rosters. So when we do mock drafts, I was looking at that. We were talking, but I was laughing when you said you take different people, and then we always go. I want to go to this one. I know you're going to laugh when I say this. Dylan Gabriel. I know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dylan Gabriel.
That's strictly to just be funny and to kind of mess with all the Browns fans. Yes, every draft I draft Dylan Gabriel. He's like the Browns' 4th quarterback, 3rd quarterback. I might even take him in the actual draft, Kyle. I might actually have to pencil him in and draft him somewhere.
No way. No way.
In like the 15th round or something. But yes, Dylan Gabriel has been on all my teams, and every time the group chat lights up and they're like, what the hell are you doing? And I just laugh it off because I'm an Eagles fan. I'm like, yeah, man, he's the future, man. He's gonna be the Browns savior, bro. I promise.
Dear God, dear God. Yeah, and it's like, and it's funny, Dennis, he does it sometimes. He'll draft like this random, like, fourth string guy that's about to get cut. And I was, the other day, it was like, Steve's like, dude, who the hell is that? He was just playing around. It's especially towards the end, but yeah, so it's just good times there. Good times there. But, well, folks, that was our fantasy preview. Nick, thank you for coming on again. I appreciate it, my guy.
Yeah, no problem. I just have one last question for you before we go.
Uh-oh.
Let's say the draft was right now at 2:54 local time, and you're up on the clock, Kyle. Who are you thinking about taking at 7? Give me a couple players. Give me a couple players.
I'm taking Deshaun Watson. No,
Look at him.
taking I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't. We go back to I don't know. It depends who's there. Whoever, because there's that one. The 4 through 6 picks are going to determine a lot, I think. And if one's there, it could be Jonathan Taylor, could be JSN. I don't know. Puka, I seriously, like, when I do mock, you ask me, I don't know. So it's a fun, folks. So
Keeping the cards close. I'm just messing with you. I want to hear.
no. I seriously, like, it just depends. But folks, good luck. We want to say good luck if you're a fantasy football player and you're watching. Good luck. Hopefully, you win your league, and hopefully, we gave you some things to think about and all that. But I know Nick will be back for a fantasy recap in probably January, February, once season's over, because it's a long haul of the season, and we get with the burnout, and we're like, by the time the season's over, we're like, thank God it's over. The way sometimes.
Oh yeah.
We're like
the
happy.
official title defense year for the commish here, so I need to defend the championship. It's going to be a interesting year. I know how hard it is to go back to back. So this is
The Hunter's become the hunted. So here we go.
Let's see what it is. But thank you for having me on, Kyle. It's always
Yeah,
good to talk fantasy.
our fantasy expert Nick Hernandez, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kyle for Mark. We'll see you next. Don't forget, we're live next week for College Football Special. Join us YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. Goodbye.